I came to the United States with $100 in my pocket and an ambition for something greater. My name is Tracy Clark, and I own a small plumbing, HVAC, and fire protection company in Cleveland, Ohio, and I grew up in County Meath, Ireland. What was it like growing up in Ireland? I lived in a really small town, and every family knew each other. So think of like 100 families, and everybody knows everybody's name. And got some really good friends really quickly, close bonds. Some of them I still speak with on Facebook even to this day, 30-some years later. Everyone knew everyone's business, so that had good things and bad things. We didn't have a lot growing up. Nobody did, so it was very equal. We had a lot of fun. Played in fields, worked hard. Kids picked fruit, picked potatoes, plucked turkeys, you name it. So worked hard and played hard as kids. School was tough, designed to be that way. So that's just kind of the Irish culture. So they raise kids at a young age to, work hard and play hard and have a sense of humor. Let's see, I am married, about to come up on my 25th wedding anniversary. Met my husband here in Cleveland in the Flats 33 years ago. We have two amazing sons, and I am a middle child. I have an older brother and a younger sister, and my parents are living in separate countries. They divorced when I was 14. Let's see, my dad lives in the Canary Islands, and my mom lives in a seaside town about 30 miles north of Dublin called Skerries with my sister. I love my family like everyone else does, but I'm just very gregarious. We do everything together. I just think it's the most important thing. You have your health and your family, and everything else is built around that. It was 1988, and I had just completed my first year of college, and I didn't do too well. So I partied too much, had too much fun, and thought, okay, I'm going to try something different, and I thought I'd go to the States for the summer, and I never moved back, and that was 30-some years ago. So came here initially, moved in with my grandparents, and thought I'd just be here for the summer and make some money and have some fun, etc. And ended up just loving it. Fell in love with everything about America and Cleveland. Loved the fast pace, loved the opportunity, loved the people, loved how different it was from where I grew up. It was night and day. Nobody knew anything about me. It was a fresh start, and yet I still had that network at home. So it was just cool. It was not like a new job. It was almost like a whole new life. Religion impacted my decision to emigrate, not consciously, but I knew I was looking for more freedom, and religion back in 1988 in Ireland was really a part of your life. So we had to go to church all the time. God's always watching. It governed state back then, so everything you did had that religious undertone to it, and not that I was against it, but it was just a big part of your life all of the time. And I found when I moved here that I just really strayed away from the church, not consciously, but I gave it all up, and I got back into it later, but I definitely needed a break. It was so prevalent in everything we did growing up there. We prayed, an hour in the morning, a half an hour at lunch. When we came back from lunch, before we went home, you went to church on Sundays, religious holidays. Everything we did together as groups. So the church was just always there in this big presence. And while it was fulfilling, it was just a big part of my life that I didn't miss, let's just say, when I moved. Again, I don't know that it was a conscious thing. I'm not sure what I was searching for when I moved. It's definitely something different, and Cleveland fulfilled that tenfold. So the culture there was just really strict in terms of work ethic and morality and all that stuff. And at 18, I'm like, I just want to have fun. When I first moved here, my first impressions were how huge everything was. I'd never seen a proper city other than on television. I'd never seen so many cars. I'd never seen how huge everything was. Like, our products are bigger, our cars here are bigger. I couldn't believe the wealth. So how much everyone had all the time. So everybody, 3 or 4 cars, that was unheard of. Most families had 1 car, and some families had no cars and took, public transportation, or maybe they owned a bicycle. So it just depended. And I thought, I want a piece of that. It doesn't look that hard. Like, people are doing it. I chose Cleveland. Actually, that was kind of my second choice. I really wanted to go to Miami, which in hindsight is funny. An 18-year-old and my 19-year-old friend, we were going to go to Miami. I mean, that's absurd. It would have been a different story, and my parents wouldn't have ever let me do that. So I chose Cleveland because my grandparents lived here, and my dad grew up here. Well, he's actually from New York, and he moved here as a small child, and I fell in love with it. Loved everything about the city. The grit that people talk about, it's here. And it's a bit like home, a bit like Ireland in that, with the people because this was a steel town and hardworking, and it's also very cultural. So Cleveland has, an Italian presence, German. We have Germantown. We have Asiatown. There's a strong Irish presence here. So it's kind of got that worldly feel to it, but in a really small town. And I love that because everybody is different. So and I'm different from where I came from. So I enjoy that. I enjoy meeting the people, and I don't think I'll live anywhere else. It's a fun place, and I love our sports teams. So. I always wanted to be a businesswoman. I wanted to manage things. I had a vision that I would wear a Navy suit, and I had no idea what I was going to do in the Navy suit, but I was going to feel important. And it's nothing like what I do now. And I wear work boots, and I go to business meetings, and I can put on the suit then. But so it wasn't my dream. I thought I would go into travel, but I made it my dream. I turned it around into that, and I have about 15 to 20 people that work with us, and I manage them. I think the biggest struggle in the beginning, being a woman in this industry, is to not pay attention to it, and that's really hard to do because people point it out. So people have bias. And I quickly learned that if I didn't pay attention to it and just went about my day, that it kind of wasn't a big deal. But it's definitely there, particularly because of my age too. So I'm over 50, and there just aren't too many women that do what I do on a daily basis. Again, I'm really hands-on, so while I will manage 15 to 20 people and do all of the office things and hold meetings, and I've had some struggles. When I first started, we lost our first business 20 years ago, and I learned some valuable lessons, made every mistake there was, lost everything we had short of our house, and I came back, just with a ferociousness that no matter what, I took that and said, okay, well, I have to take that failure and learn from it and turn it into a success. And my gender certainly wasn't going to let that get in the way. So while I wasn't a typical business owner, it made me, again, it probably played back to the Irish thing where I like being a bit different. And so now I'm different in there, and I don't know if it's the attention thing or it's a challenge. I haven't quite gotten my head around it, but I do love it. I think it's funny. I step out of a van, and I'll go grab my materials, and I could surely hire someone to do that. Would be no problem. I would pay somebody, and they could do the deliveries. But I love that hands-on thing. I like to go in and speak with my suppliers. I like to stand at the counters and meet other people in my industry. And I guess I'm just a bit novel, and maybe, gosh, it's funny saying it now, but it's probably the attention. So, but I never get offended. I guess that's the point. I don't get offended. People say things maybe that, they just don't have a filter, and it doesn't bother me. And I roll with it, and I like it, and it's fun. It makes it interesting. I do things that most people don't do, and especially in this town. Big life changes that's what it's all about, right? Taking that leap and the sense of pride that you have after you do something that you thought you couldn't do is way better than had you said, well, I'll just make this easy change and I'll take these little baby steps. I feel like anybody could do that. But you can't live your life saying, well, what if I'd never gone? Because then you'll just be living with guilt and yuckiness, and you got to try it, So be safe, ask for help. And don't be afraid, because that's what life is. You can't just sit around doing nothing. Just live, do the things.